mountains in Oregon and Washington have been identified by the U.S. Geological Survey as very high threat volcanoes: Mount Hood, Mount St. Helens, and Mount Rainier.
This week, hundreds of small earthquakes have been detected at Mount Rainier, and this is the largest swarm of quakes.
Beneath the picturesque peaks of the Pacific Northwest, something far more dangerous than scenic beauty is taking shape. Recent satellite images and subsurface scans have exposed a pattern of geological activity that has scientists raising the alarm. What was once considered a collection of individual volcanoes, Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, and Mount Hood, may actually be linked through a vast underground network of molten tunnels. These magma pathways suggest a level of connection and interdependence that could transform how we understand the risk of eruption in this region. With magma shifts, subtle tremors, and signs of pressurization occurring in unison across these volcanoes, the possibility of a coordinated or chain reaction event can no longer be dismissed. This is no longer about isolated eruptions. It's about the potential for a regional volcanic event with serious consequences for millions. For decades, each of these volcanoes has been studied individually. Mount St. Helens famously erupted in 1980, delivering a violent reminder of the region's volatile geology. Mount Rainier, although quiet, sits ominously above heavily populated areas and is considered one of the most dangerous volcanoes in the United States due to its glacier-covered summit and potential for deadly lahars. Mount Hood, while less active in recent memory, has shown patterns of uplift and thermal changes that have long kept scientists watching. But it wasn't until recently that researchers began noticing deeper alignments, synchronized patterns in temperature shifts, seismic tremors, and gas emissions that seemed to ripple through the entire region at once. It was this shared behavior that prompted teams to dig deeper, using ground-penetrating radar, GPS monitoring, and infrared satellite imaging to look below the surface. What they found changed everything. Beneath the Cascades, a series of high-temperature conduits, essentially magma tunnels, appear to connect the deep reservoirs of Rainier, St. Helens, and Hood. While these connections do not exist at shallow depths, they link the lower crust magma chambers in a way that allows pressure and molten rock to migrate over significant distances. This is not entirely unprecedented in geological history, but in modern volcanology, such clear and measurable signs of shared subsurface systems are rare. These pathways are not rigid tunnels like pipelines, but dynamic zones of melt where magma can migrate depending on pressure conditions and tectonic movements. Essentially, if one chamber is destabilized or begins to rise, it can influence or even destabilize neighboring systems. This raises a serious concern. If Mount St. Helens, for example, experiences a new influx of magma from deeper in the mantle, the excess pressure could push material along these connected pathways, increasing pressure under Mount Rainier or Hood, even if those volcanoes were otherwise quiet. This phenomenon, known as magmatic triggering, is documented in multi-vent systems elsewhere in the world, but is rarely this close to large population centers. With Seattle, Portland, and other communities positioned within range of potential pyroclastic flows, ashfall, and lahars, the risks extend beyond scientific curiosity and enter the realm of public safety. Seismic sensors have already detected unusual harmonics in the region. These low-frequency tremors, often referred to as volcanic long-period earthquakes, are typically associated with the movement of magma. When such tremors are detected under multiple volcanoes in a short time window and follow a geographic pattern that matches the suspected tunnel routes, it adds further weight to the theory. GPS stations have also recorded very subtle inflation and deformation across several sites. Not dramatic enough to trigger emergency alerts, but significant when seen across multiple volcanoes at once. This suggests that the whole connected system is under stress, rising in pressure even if not yet nearing eruption. Infrared satellite images have added another layer of concern. Nighttime thermal scans have revealed warm zones beneath the surface that correspond to these suspected magma pathways. While not visible to the naked eye, these hotspots are consistently warmer than surrounding rock and appear to be slowly expanding. Combined with chemical data from gas emissions, showing rising sulfur dioxide levels in multiple locations, scientists believe the deeper system may be entering a more active phase. None of this alone is enough to predict a specific eruption, but the combination of signals paints a picture that cannot be ignored. The United States Geological Survey and affiliated research institutions have now shifted from isolated monitoring to a more regional surveillance strategy. Data from multiple volcanoes are being centralized and compared in real time, allowing for a broader understanding of how pressure and activity may be transferring underground. This has led to new models that simulate multi-vent interactions, where activity in one part of the system could alter conditions in another. These models are not predictions, but they allow emergency planners to visualize worst-case scenarios, such as a chain reaction starting at one volcano and escalating rapidly. There is also historical precedence for this kind of activity. In the past, eruptions at one volcano in a region have been followed by or accompanied by activity at nearby systems. This has been observed in volcanic arcs across the Pacific and even in Iceland. Geological records in the Cascades show overlapping ash layers from different volcanoes deposited within very short time frames, suggesting possible historic coordination of activity. While the science remains cautious, these findings support the idea that what's happening below the Cascades may not be entirely new, just newly understood. With this information, public preparedness becomes essential. While volcanic activity often provides early warning signs, the complexity of a connected system reduces the reliability of traditional indicators. An eruption at Mount St. Helens, for example, might not be preceded by significant activity at Mount Hood, but could still trigger instability there. This kind of indirect influence makes evacuation timing, resource planning, and public communication more challenging. Communities surrounding all three volcanoes may need to rethink how they approach volcanic risk, not as a local issue, but as a shared regional hazard. In response, local governments, emergency services, and geological agencies are updating coordination protocols. Evacuation routes are being reevaluated with the understanding that multiple eruptions could occur within a compressed time window. Emergency supply caches are being repositioned, and public awareness campaigns are emphasizing broader risk coverage. In some areas, officials are even conducting joint drills that assume simultaneous or sequential events across the volcanoes. These steps are not reactions to imminent eruption, but part of a broader shift in risk management driven by the evolving science. Meanwhile, researchers continue to improve satellite imaging and subsurface scanning. New data streams, including INSAR, interferometric synthetic aperture radar, are helping track ground movements at a scale of millimeters per year. When combined with thermal imaging and gas sensors, these tools provide a multi-dimensional view of what's happening underground. Artificial intelligence is also being tested to help detect subtle patterns in seismic and thermal data that might escape human analysis. These advances represent the cutting edge of volcanology, critical as scientists race to understand what this system is doing. There is no current evidence of an imminent eruption, but the concern is no longer centered on a single volcano waking up. It's about a network of geological systems behaving in a way that suggests they are more connected and therefore more unpredictable than previously believed. Magma tunnel activity, while hidden from view, may be the key factor in determining how and when future eruptions unfold in the Cascades. As these pathways shift and respond to tectonic changes, the possibility of shared eruptions or pressure-driven migration becomes more plausible. For residents and planners alike, the message is clear. The Pacific Northwest volcanoes are not isolated. They are part of a dynamic and potentially volatile system that must be watched carefully. The next steps involve continued observation, updated risk assessments, and transparent communication between scientists, governments, and the public. While no one can predict exactly what will happen or when, staying informed is the most important line of defense. The scientific community is not issuing panic, only caution based on facts that can no longer be dismissed or ignored. These volcanoes are speaking, not in eruptions, but in data, and it's up to us to listen. The ongoing satellite analysis and seismic data strongly suggest that Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, and Mount Hood may be part of a connected volcanic system. This evolving situation highlights the importance of continued monitoring, updated risk assessments, and clear emergency planning. For more factual updates on critical developments like this, Like the video, share it with others.